for Tuesday, October 15th. The approval of the agenda, first up.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any public comments? We see none. We'll need an approval of our minutes from the August 20th meeting, 2024. We've all had a chance to look.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of the August 20th meeting as presented.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any unfinished business? DACWA was up. We were just curious to see how it's working for us and everything that's gone with.
So we received 9 reservations total. But I think we had more inquiries last year, but more reservations this year. So yeah, not bad.
But what was last year's, do you remember?
I think 2 or 3.
Three, so
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
jump.
And I was looking over like how to make a reservation
Mhm.
through DACWA a few months ago. I kind of went through just to see what the steps were.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically the same as what we're doing now because
Right.
they verify it by email, they go back and
Right.
forth. And then, so basically they're just paying through our reservation system.
Right.
Right.
It seems to be working. They had no problem calling and so that, I don't, yeah, that's pretty easy.
Just to make sure we're utilizing everything we're paying for is the
Yeah.
main thing.
Yeah, and I think we paid $1,700 for
Yeah.
the subscription. And
Right.
we probably had $1,200 in
Good.
transit package estimate. So, yeah.
It was nice to see the article in the paper about how much busier the marina was. I was sorry that some of the commissioners didn't get credit for their hard work in marketing it. It was attributed to good weather and good fishing, I think.
All of it is,
Yeah.
But I think our marketing
It's a
is helping, is paying
I'm
off,
sure it's a big combination.
Yeah,
and will continue to grow.
yeah.
Well, I've said it before, but I think it's a combination of community factors. Number one, we've got the facilities in great shape. Number two, we've got a commission that's trying to promote it, you know, in various ways. I think there's lots of positive things happening throughout the community. And the word of Manistee is just getting out and people want to come and visit and enjoy the facilities. And I don't think you can point at one thing. I think it's just that combination. And
Combination, yeah.
I honestly, I think that, you know, Katie's deserves an atta girl for managing it well, and I think this is your, third year, and we've seen it progressively get better. I think the staff is getting better trained and more comfortable, and that matters a lot to the customers, and so, yeah, I think it's awesome. I can't tell you how it makes me feel every day, multiple times a day, to cross the Maple Street Bridge, be able to look down and see almost every slip full throughout the summer. I mean, it wasn't too long ago where it was half full, and it was,
On the weekend.
yeah. You know, the biggest challenge I think that you had was, just covering all the hours and all the requests and all the slips and, you know, even the boat show, there were more Century boats that showed up than they were expecting. We didn't have enough slips ready for them, and we had to move people around, and I mean, but I think we don't have the financials yet, but it was a very, very successful year. Very successful year.
In talking to the voters, I got the impression, okay, we got them here, and the word's kind of getting out, and they like being here. So the word will spread.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of them plan to return, and a lot of that has to do with the marina itself, but also the surrounding town.
Sure.
Oh, they love the town.
That's what I'm saying. The facilities are there. You're treated properly, and then there's lots of other beautiful things and fun things to do, and it just all continues to build. you know, we had a tree commission meeting last night, and after the meeting, the chair mentioned to me that he walks the Riverwalk every day, and every time he passes by, he tries to have a conversation with the boater.
Oh, good.
And said, wow, every interaction I had was positive, and people were happy and excited to be in Manistee, and, so.
Do you see then in maybe possibly this coming voting season in 2025, getting a full-time person there to, because that might help increase, you know, the business and/or service?
Manager
You know,
slash
it's
utility
almost like you
person
have to
slash
look at the
whatever.
harbor as, almost like the Hampton Inn, you know, somebody's showing up at a certain time at the hotel, they're not gonna say we're closed or we're not available. You know, we're almost becoming, because of the, word getting out there now,
Traffic.
that's something that we should probably really look into.
So my thoughts on that are, number one, that manager role is very demanding on her time.
Right.
And it takes away from other things that we need her to be doing down at Public
Correct.
Works. So, but we've had, for the last 2 years, we've had conversations of, well, let's put out our advertisement, let's see, and then if we get an appropriate candidate, that we could kind of make that assistant manager, if you will, position, or somebody that we would pay for having more responsibilities there. We had somebody that we thought was gonna work out, and then they just didn't accept the position. So I think that, number one, we're kind of trying to migrate that way. I think to pay somebody properly, we need to be able to sustain the level of business that we're doing, you know, keep that going for a couple more years so the budgets can support it, because the last 2 years are the first 2 profitable years we've had in decades. The other thing is, I think in 2 or 3 years, we dropped the debt off from the building. And so then that opens up
Right.
much more
Cash
opportunity.
flow.
So we're kind of looking for that interim solution. This year we didn't find it, but I think that's a worthy discussion in the future. Yeah.
Because I think we've come so far and just not to, and I don't know if it would be where Kitty can do the, you know, be there more and somebody replaces her where she's at, or vice versa. Or they kind of, like you said, if you found another assistant manager. I just find that it just seems, we were only on the lake, it probably was just a one-time situation, but we had the radio on and heard someone's trying to reach the harbor by radio and nobody was answering. So it's one of those situations that we kind of went on and said, go ahead, go for it, there's a slip. And then we thought, well,
Take an open slip.
take an open slip, so you don't want to, we don't know what their situation was, but they were trying to contact.
They easily could have been cutting grass or
Sure.
something like
Exactly,
that.
but I
Even
mean,
though they
as
had
we
a portable
get
radio
busier
station.
though, that would alleviate having, you know, someone that wasn't, but was able to customer service.
When do all the
that.
numbers come out for the profitability or the expenses?
We've closed, I just haven't pulled them. Yeah, so, I think they're finished with the audit. Usually when the audit comes in, I'll ask Ed for a report on that, so.
Anything else? We'll move on to our reports. Harbor Master and City Manager's not here, so Jeff will probably give us both.
Well, I didn't know he wasn't coming, but I'd be happy to.
It's just the numbers, and
yeah.
we have them all here, so.
So, just a few items. This week we are, we're winterizing the beach bathrooms and the fish cleaning station. We had temps drop pretty cold the last few days. It was 30 degrees this morning. There's several days next week that are forecasted in the 30s, so in order to make sure we protect those assets, we've winterized it. The other thing is the mid-September, our contract with Huron tackle to remove the fish waste ends. So usually if they're still in production mode, we can get them to take, but we ended up with 5 barrels of fish waste that we're dealing with internally. So that's just another, forgot to mention it last month when Mr. Deitch was here and talking about it, but that's another consideration. So those will be shut down. The boat launches are officially shut down, which means we pulled the pay tube from Arthur Street and we've turned the power off to the pay station at First Street. And then the use of those launches aren't policed, if you will. Normally we have the city police officers that'll drive through and make sure that people have their permits. We met recently with the Corps of Engineer, and we had requested to sit down and discuss the damage to the Riverwalk and the net shed that had been caused by the dredging. The Corps ended up working it into a more organized harbor visit. So they brought like 14 people here, but they were going Pentwater to Manistee, and they were looking at specific harbors going up. So we kind of took advantage of that. It worked out very well. We met them down at First Street Boat Launch. We walked down to the Riverwalk so they could see where the damage had occurred, where the dredging had occurred. Incidentally, we had finished the temporary supports on the Riverwalk, and had reopened that prior to that, and then had also pulled the net shed, and we've got it temporarily stored down at the boat launch. But they certainly heard and saw what our concerns were from the community, and we discussed, the lack of communication that existed between the Corps, the contractor, and the city, and it seemed isolated. We've always had very good communications with them. And then we went to our city engineer's office and kind of had the second part of the meeting, and they updated us on a number of things that are planned within the harbor. Those include, the interesting thing was the dredging that was scheduled for this year actually was included in the president's budget, but the president's budget hasn't been adopted by Congress. So they're on a continuing resolution, which means there actually was no dedicated money for dredging. What the dredging that they did do was leftover money from the previous year's projects that they reallocated for emergency dredging of the harbor entrance only. They actually have much more dredging that needs to be done throughout the whole federal navigation channel in the Manistee River. So they're hoping that that budget gets approved, and that would mean they would return to continue that work. Additional items that were included in the president's approved budget include, let me find it. A creation of a dredge material management plan. So when they, pretty much from where the Ned shed was down to the pier heads, the material that normally shoals there is classified as fairly clean sand. And so there's no restrictions on their ability to put that out into Lake Michigan or on the beaches for beach nourishment. Up into the river itself to Manistee Lake, that has a different classification, and so that cannot be discharged into Lake Michigan. It has to be discharged upland. It can be discharged anywhere upland. There's no restriction. So it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just the makeup of the material. There's more sediment or so forth. So they've asked for money to create a disposal area. So they're looking for a hole someplace that they can store 50 years worth of dredging in and basically fill that hole. And so that'll be forthcoming. They've also requested and have been approved for $1 million of structure maintenance. They plan on doing some stonework. And then there was several other projects that they had requested that haven't been approved yet, but they've kind of talked through how the budgets are put together. They go through the Senate, they go through Congress, they go through the president. All three of them have to agree before it actually gets approved. And it's not just the core budget, but it's every federal budget. So, but there's a lot of future plans and upgrades. So it was nice to know that you know, at least the federal government cares about our harbor and is working and planning towards improving it. Our city engineers made us aware that there's an Eagle grant specifically for pump out for marinas. So Katie inquired with them, and we're going to see if we can. It's a pretty favorable grant. I remember what the terms were. Do you? It was pretty favorable though, so we're going to look into seeing if we can upgrade that facility. And then this summer we had a short in one of the electrical boxes along the Riverwalk, so we'll be working with Top Line to give us an estimate. He said that the building inspector or the electrical inspector likely will require us not just to fix the issue, but once you dig into it, you've got to upgrade the entire shoreline electrical to current standards. And the term he used was really expensive. But I don't have a
Really
number on
expensive.
that.
So that's each of the docks. Is it along the north area?
This would be along the Riverwalk itself, so from the Elks to the bridge. But we're we need to see once we open up that can how far
Yeah.
the worms go.
When was the last time those pedestals were put in, or any kind of electrical work?
I think we did the pedestals. It was after the building was built, so it's probably been 15 years, 16 years ago. Yeah, because we did new pedestals and ran all new power and put in a new 800 amp service. We got Waterways grant money for that. But the next innovation or iteration of that is making sure that each one is grounded, grounded to the dock and to the dock to the water. So.
Where does the money come from for that upgrade?
It could come from as the capital improvement fund, which is well, it could come from a variety of sources. If we had cash on hand, we could use that. We could seek a grant from through Waterways, DNR Waterways. We could fund it through the city's capital improvement fund, which is a portion of the interest that we receive from the oil and gas royalties. So I need to find out what the project is, what the budget is, and then explore the best way to fund it. And that's my report. You can see from the boat launch revenues that we had the highest, again, the highest year in 2024. It was up by just under $3,000 from 23, so that trend continues. I would point out that didn't include a price increase, so it looks like it's just slightly fewer daily sales, but substantially more seasonals, which is encouraging. To me, that means residents are taking advantage of the seasonals, or people are staying here longer for their trips and seeing the value in season.
It's real reasonable. I wouldn't drive far just to save a few bucks.
Right.
How many seasonal slips did we fill this year? 10, yeah. So that's a substantial.
Yeah.
And I already have a list
Nice.
another 10.
The
So,
total is 18 we can take? Yeah. Nice.
Do you think that might increase next year?
I thought it would increase this year, I think it did by 1. Sometimes we get like a half a season, or people that come in a couple months, so it's kind of hard to say, but it's around 10.
Which is the highest it's been in quite a while, yeah. And I think that's reflective of the facilities being in good shape and
Sure.
maintained and all of that.
If we had a pump out ability, what would that do to the workload on your?
We already have one, we're just replacing our existing unit.
Oh, okay.
It requires a lot of maintenance each season, so,
And we charge $10 for pump out, and I think we have to charge the $5 if we accept the grant, it's a $5 flat rate.
it was $5 back in
I don't think it's ever changed.
'88 when I worked at the city marina.
Wow.
That's what the state rate is, 5.
Yeah, it's amazing how nothing's changed.
Huh.
Well, you've got exceptions on the slip rental rates, haven't you? I mean, we could seek out an exception
Well,
on that.
I increased the rates quite a bit on the transient decks this year, so you'll see a higher number, but we have to look at actual how many boats with
Yeah,
her.
numbers versus.
In the seasonal, do you include the Coast Guard and DNR in that?
No, I don't think they're,
So on top of that 10 seasonals,
Right.
we also have the Princess, which pays a substantial amount, 2 Coast Guard slips, which is a substantial revenue, and then the DNR also.
Sheriff Department,
Sure.
and DNR.
And you don't see those going away, right? The Coast Guard
No, in
isn't
fact,
yearly, like, maybe.
the Coast Guard has consolidated their Frankfurt, Ludington
Right.
satellite operations to Manistee. So we have a contract with them, with the federal government for both slips.
Okay.
And then they're actually investing thousands of dollars to run a new electrical service down to those 2 slips and have a separate feed and a higher amperage feed for those vessels. We've got that requested in consumers, it's under design right now. So they're investing substantially. And, you know, they've got slips at the station, but in bad weather, those aren't the best locations.
Right, right.
Princess is gone for the winter. They didn't stick around this year.
Yeah, they went several weeks ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think they've done that the last 2 years now,
Sorry, where did they go?
Grand Haven, for dry dock.
The net house. Looking at putting it back where it was, or saving money and placing it. with a less
So,
costly foundation.
so, what I know, I'll give you a little bit of history on that. When I was working for At Marsh, who was the city's engineer of record, like Spicer is today, the city came forward and said, hey, we're working with the local museum and we want to put a replica of a net shed. So I remember we designed and got permitted the pilings and the dock. And then apparently the city received a coastal zone management grant to help pay for that. I had always thought it was kind of in-kind community businesses that were contributing, and I think there was probably some of that. But what we found is that the pilings were designed and permitted to 40 feet, which is the proper depth to not be impacted by dredging. Those pilings were not 40 feet.
What were they? I saw them moved it out, but
I don't have a number, but they are not 40 feet.
they weren't 40 feet.
No. And they weren't installed per the design. I can tell you that.
Were they
In fact, I think Kelly was able to find the original permit from the Corps.
Were they 8 to 12 feet?
I don't know. I was on vacation when they actually extracted them. So the Corps is very aware of this and saying if you would have built it to where we permitted it, you wouldn't have had a problem. And that's for the net shed. The Riverwalk had a different design. It was all upland. All that Riverwalk was built over land in the 90s when it was constructed. Now it's substantially below water. The Corps also, we pointed out to the Corps that for at least 30 years that I've been paying attention, there's been a stamp on their soundings that says no maintenance zone right at that location. And some of the tenured people that were in the Corps and visited us said, yeah, I remember that. But there's no mandate, there's nothing specific in the Corps that says this is a no maintenance zone. It was they believe it was an agreement between the Corps and the city decades ago that said, every time you do this, you cause this impact and stop it. And there used to be a lot of erosion behind Tom's house and those row of houses on First Street. So it was kind of for lack of a better word, a gentleman's agreement, we believe. But they also pointed out that the federal mandate is this navigation channel from here to here, this wide, this deep, that's federal law. Our job is to just carry out that federal law. So at least they're aware of it. All their staff are aware of it. They're willing to discuss that. But there's likely to be more dredging in that section. So from our standpoint, we paid for a temporary removal of that shed and opening up the Riverwalk. But that's not the long-term solution, because we put 40-foot piles in to support the Riverwalk where it had sunk, but there's, I don't know, thousands of feet of that Riverwalk that are probably on 14, 15-foot posts that were just jetted into the ground. So that's not going to support full maintenance of that navigation channel.
No.
So and those posts are every 5 foot, okay? So we've already talked with the engineers, and the engineers said, well, the current Riverwalk would have to be supported by 40-foot piles every 5 foot. By the time you do all those piles, you might as well take that Riverwalk out, put the piles at 20-foot spacing, and the money you save on less piles, you can redeck it.
Right.
So we're gonna spend the winter trying to figure that out.
Because we know more dredging's coming.
Yeah.
Moving on to new business. Our annual report will be coming up on December 17th, obviously by me. We need to set our meeting dates for 2025. They're on the back of the minutes agenda. Do we need to approve that or just?
We do, we
take
need a
look at it?
motion to accept it. And it's the same as we've always done, our
Third
second
Tuesdays, yeah.
Tuesday, yeah,
Yep.
third Tuesday, yeah.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 2025 Harbor Commission meeting schedule as presented.
I'll second that.
Second it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Most of the marina stuff we went over, we've had nice continued growth. We're trying to work on the 2025 season and beyond. And any other suggestions or ideas? I know, like we said, every little bit helps. We were at a couple places over the week. The rec cards were gone that we passed out. We heard that at least one worked from Chicago. So the word gets around, whether it's radio, television, rec cards.
I felt like we had bigger boats this
Seemed to be.
Yeah.
Were they the loopers, do you think, or were they just bigger
Just a
boats?
mixture of everything.
Mixture.
Yeah.
So last year we talked a lot about the loopers. I really haven't heard much about them this year. Did we?
Yeah, it seemed to be. Also, it seemed like more sailboats too, potentially. Yeah.
We did participate in the downtown marketing campaign, right through the
Oh,
radio.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Actually, I just heard an ad this morning. It said, "Come run the dock." I go, "Oh, it's closed." I think it went through October, so.
Oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense, yeah.
Really $100 a month. So. But he included the rental and then the slips and I believe the boat launch.
The room rental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He included everything, so, yeah.
Will that start up again towards spring or
Yeah, we
later
can
in
do
the
it
winter?
again
Yeah.
next year.
Well, I think the DDA worked with the radio station to do a marketing campaign, and it started with the closure of the bridge, and then I think they continued on through the summer. So certainly, if there's other, I mean, now that we're starting to generate some revenue, we've got the freedom to explore and participate in those things as we think they, you know, if there's payoff for them. So.
Do you rent the room upstairs more in the summer than the winter? You do, okay.
It gets rented a lot.
Yeah, every week
Yeah.
or every week, sometimes twice a
Is
week.
it, yeah.
3 times a week.
Is that strictly by hearsay then, or is it, I mean, besides?
Repeats?
Yeah, I mean, is it, how do people contact or know
Yeah,
about
we don't-
it?
Yeah, the local.
We don't put it on the Facebook often, do we?
No, but we have it on our website, you know, it's a regular rental, so a lot of people use it for, you know, their kids' graduation parties and birthday parties, so it gets a lot of usage all year.
Okay,
I think, just like Kelly's saying, I think it trends up because, you know, you get invited to a party there and you're like, wow, this is a cool space.
right. That's what,
What are the details? Well, it's pretty inexpensive and,
right,
And we do put it out on social media every now and then, yeah,
available.
yeah.
the interesting thing is when we designed that current facility, I don't know if you remember the previous one, but the marina operations were on the lower level, and there was just a bathroom facility up on River Street, and then there was a big deck, and it was kind of awkward to get to that big deck, and it really didn't get used that much. So when we were designing the building, we wanted to retain the bathrooms, the DDA bathrooms on River Street. We wanted to expand the ability and the space down below and added in much more and better shower facilities and restroom and in the lounges. And then it was kind of like, well, what do we put above it? Like, there's an opportunity there, but we don't really need anything there. And so my architect priced out, if we just framed it in, you know, it was pennies because we already had to put a roof on it. So all we needed to do is put basically the walls and some windows, and then the city freed up additional money to then carpet it and furnish it. And we looked at it, can somebody use it for an office space? And we looked at different uses and ended up being, well, maybe we can make this a community space and maybe people use it. And it's turning out now to be a great asset.
It's got a great look from the river with the 2 levels.
It does,
Yeah,
yeah.
it does. Is there, just curious, is there a reason why the garbage can is right next to the drinking fountain?
People ask us about that.
Well, not only that, but I've used it, and especially in the fall, the bees are pretty bad around there. I just, out of all the spots, why it's right next to the drinking fountain.
We don't really have a lot of room, and I asked,
Okay.
City Hall about, for Cano's dumpsters, I think. we
Right,
talked about
yeah.
last time. She
Gotcha.
said that they have to be all in one for them to pick up, so they have to be combined with the marinas. So they're
Okay,
all-
yeah, that's,
But the one in the front, there's really no place to set it. I mean,
It just
we
seems-
have the lawn area or by the street,
Right.
so I mean, it's limited.
yeah, it just
And
seems.
that's for the rental area, that's not for the marina, like we have.
Right,
we pick
well,
up
even
ours.
for the marina area, it just, even if you're coming out of the woman's bathroom, you're walking and you're saying they were throwing something away, get a drink and, You know, it just seems like a odd
It is,
spot
there isn't
for
any
it?
other place.
Place
I mean,
for
there
it?
isn't, no, unless
Or
you
be
put it on the lawn,
considered,
which
or
would-
any place else. Okay, it just kind
Yeah.
of struck me.
There was, 'cause I think we talked about it, I think Kelly Reedy and I talked about it at one point, moving it, 'cause we placed the bench, I think, on the other side, so actually we moved it from one side to the other. but-
Yeah. I never thought about it.
Yeah.
I heard until I used it, and then I'm like, this is kind of smelly.
Yeah, it
Especially
is.
somebody's throwing dirty diapers in there. It's
Right.
kinda- Just kind of, you know, we've got such a nice building, I just kind of want to keep that,
So those are closed for the season?
The bathrooms?
Yeah.
The bathrooms remain open year round.
So the trash can will remain out there?
While we're on the subject, maybe after the meeting, I need to talk to you about decorating for the Santa house and what requirements or what we're going to be able to do.
Sure.
Okay,
I can talk to you about that,
I'd like to
probably.
reserve that room. Oh, it'd be Kelly.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about that. That's probably better me.
No screws,
Yeah, he doesn't like
no Ohio State gear.
yeah, I'm mainly concerned with the permanency of the decorations for the course of the Santa house being opened. And if it would interrupt rental operations during the week or
Yeah,
when it wasn't being used.
yeah. We could talk about it after. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Most of it's been talked about, yeah. Public comments, we still have none. And any comments by our harbor commissioners to end out the year, maybe?
Well.
Been a great year.
A great run, thank
Mary
you.
Lou is leaving us, her term was ended and decided not to
There's
move up.
brownies, help yourself before you leave, and you can take them with you for the boys, whatever. But thank you, it was a great run,
Well, thanks for your input
absolutely.
and hard
Yeah,
work.
great to see you leave.
Yeah.
We'll still put the rec cards out in Chicago, we still have a handful that we'll take with us, so, yeah,
Tracks, we were there last night too, we put some there, they're all gone.
yeah, so we'll see.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna reprint them again?
Yeah, we
Okay,
can do that.
so maybe when we're out and about.
Are we out of
stop
them?
in.
Are we out of them?
I have a few, I have a small
I
pile.
think we have like 25 left
Yeah,
that
and I
we
put them
thought
out, I
we
sent
would.
them out at the marina all summer, so.
Yeah,
And they're almost gone, so that's good.
How did the thoroughbred, that boat show thing go for you?
It was good, it was busy. Oh, I think we were gonna discuss rates for next year, if they return next year, if they would pay,
That's right.
not pay.
We had talked about, you know, if they used a couple slips and
Mhm.
would we charge them and the commission said, I don't think that's necessary but they were much more demanding than
Yeah.
we expected.
Maybe a group rate or something like that.
It could be. How many boats did,
I think
cause
20
you met with
people.
you met with the organizer ahead of time, right? Walk us through how that
Well, last
transpired.
year, he stopped by in the fall, when they were just getting going, so they were just starting out. And I said, well, just, you know, keep in touch. Well, then I heard that it was like on the city council agenda, that it was approved, and I'm like, I don't even know how many slips, we're still open. And we have reservations booked through September. And from what I understand, they moved it up a week, so I think they were at the end of September, so we weren't closed, and we had we weren't full, but we were closed. So I reached out to Tom, he's the organizer of the club, and, he thought they're gonna have, we'll probably, right now we have, I think at the time was, I think it was in August, he said they had like 4 signed up. He's like, but sometimes they come in late, and they sign up late, and I just wanted to know how many slips to set aside. He goes, and normally we put 3 boat per slip, and so we kept in touch throughout, the first 2 weeks of September, and They ended up coming in and he said, oh, we've got,
They came in the night
or
before.
the night before, yeah, they did.
This was supposed to be, they're gonna show up Saturday, park for 4, 5, 6 hours, and then
Yeah.
leave. They
Right.
came in the night before, there was 3 times
They
as
had an
many.
event the night before, I believe they went out on the Princess, and then they had a dinner, and they rented the upper level, which was fine, and, we did what we could, and so they ended up having like 16 sign up, and Saturday morning, I thought, well, I better come into work, because I'm not sure what's gonna happen. And I only had one dockhand working, because everybody was gone, all my kids were back to school. And she was really nervous, and she was like, I don't know, I don't really wanna be here by myself, so I came in, and they ended up, I think, had 20, 21, and they didn't want to I was trying to get them to double up in each slip, and they weren't really going for that, they all wanted their own slip, and they were just,
No room.
it was a challenge, so I talked them into doubling up rather than triple, and a couple of them just, their boats are very special, and we understand that, and we're trying to, put out bumpers and do what we could to accommodate them, but, it worked. We had it worked out, but I think we had eight or 9 slips.
Occupied.
All of them.
So again, a nice learning curve. If they do it again next year, we can ask more questions and get it documented that
And I noticed they didn't
If
really, I know
that's-
Tom is their organizer, but it didn't
If
seem like.
something
like-
happened.
It didn't seem like anybody was really in charge, so all of their, members were asking us for everything. We did what we could to assist them, but, we made little posters, we put, docks 19 through, 22 here, Century Boat Club, and then just trying to kind of organize them. And we caught them like when they were coming in by boat too, because then they would pull into somebody else's slip that we had reserved for another boat
Sure.
coming in that day. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it was a little chaotic, but once we got everybody settled, everything was good. It was fine. And they had a good turnout. I mean, it was a nice
Yeah.
day, and the rain was busy, and then we had our
Busy.
open house. We opened it up and had
People went through
some
it.
things. Yeah. Yeah. So it was good.
I guess the big thing would be if you knew how many boats they would have, at least you could accommodate or plan for it.
Right. And I did
Or
block
say,
up.
General
there's
idea.
first come, first serve, there's 4 spots, and
Yeah.
whoever signs up is.
Right.
Well, if we knew we could plan on that every year,
Right.
you could charge them a reduced rate or something, but then block off 4 or 5 slips.
And be ready.
That's convenient for the public to view and,
Exactly.
but this was,
Just,
it was a hodgepodge of everything.
it's like your teenage child having a few friends over, and then there's like 50 of them.
Right.
It worked out though. I think everybody was happy. So. Yeah.
Must have taken some effort.
It did.
Thank you.
Anything else? We can take a motion to adjourn?
That motion?
I'll second it.
I'll support it.
There we go.